Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, we went over 305. It's in Google Classroom, but you can also get to it in K-12. It's in the K-12 305. And all of my videos and slideshows are all in there too. Yesterday, Wednesdays are just naturally built-in catch-up days. It was extra time for you to do 305. If you're still not done, that's okay. Just do it. Today, we're going to focus on 306. And let's start that. So we're going to break this lesson into two parts. The first part is me explaining what paraphrasing is and how do you do it. We'll look at a practice. And then the second part of the lesson, I actually want you to open up your quiz, and we're going to read that passage together about Sleepy Hollow. So it's pretty dense. There's a lot of big words, old-fashioned kind of words that are in there. So I want to break it down so that you can answer the questions to the best of your ability. Okay. So part one, here we go. What is paraphrasing? Paraphrasing is like a summary. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. And it's where you take an original piece of text and you put it into your own words. So when you write something out, there's often a different type of language or style that you use when you read something, when you write something, as opposed to when you're talking to your friends. So a paraphrase is a chance for you to put the information that you read into like common talk. Okay. It's not copying, but it's rewriting. I found this and I thought this was nice. So how do you paraphrase? You put things into your own words. You avoid copying the text, but you rearrange it similar to the text. And then ask yourself if you included all of the important parts. You might be saying, how do I know what an important part is? How do I know what paraphrasing looks like? Well, this wonderful person put together a little video that shows you about quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. So just pay extra attention to when the paraphrasing comes up. And you do not need to have seen the movie Brave to follow along. Okay. Although it helps. It's a good movie. Here we go.
Sometimes you need to incorporate other people's ideas into your own writing. There are 3 ways to do that: quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. First, I'm going to talk about what each one is. When you're quoting something, you're taking what the author says word for word and putting it in your paper. When you're paraphrasing something, you're explaining a piece of what the author says in your own words, but still giving the author credit for the idea. When you're summarizing something, once again, you're saying it in your own words, but you're also shortening what the author says. Usually people choose to summarize when the author's passage is on the longer side. For all 3 of these techniques, you want to make sure you cite your author at the end, so that way you're not plagiarizing.
Sure.
So let's do some examples.
Parentheses.
This is a story that Queen Eleanor tells Merida in the movie Brave. It's going to act as our original passage. So if we wanted to quote it, we would take a specific part of it and put quotation marks around it. In this case, our quote is, "The oldest prince wanted to rule the land for himself. He followed his own path and the kingdom fell to war and chaos and ruin." And then at the end, we're going to put the author, in this case, Queen Eleanor.
Okay, so what I like about this, what I don't like is that it has this. Okay, so when you quote something, you use quotation marks because it's the exact words. And then whoever said it, that's who goes in parentheses at the end. That's who we're citing. So that's quoting. Let's look at paraphrasing.
The end to show that we are using her words. Now let's move on to paraphrasing. If we were to paraphrase this passage, we'd say something like, "When the king grew old, he gave a piece of his land to each of his 4 sons so they could rule the kingdom together." And once again, we're going to put Queen Eleanor's name at the end to show that we are taking from her work.
So it says the same thing, but because it's not exact, we don't use quotation marks, but we still give the speaker credit so that they know that this isn't your original thought, like it's from this person, but it is in your own words.
So in this sentence, we're focusing on the part of the passage that talks about the king dividing up the kingdom, and we're explaining it in our own words. Now let's summarize this passage because it's kind of long. A summary would sound something like, an ancient king divided his land among his 4 sons, but the oldest prince took the land for himself and drove the kingdom into ruin. So when we paraphrased, we focused on the king giving away the land. But here, we're also focusing on the fact that the prince took all of the land and the effects of that. And these are the 3 ways that you can incorporate somebody else's ideas into one of your papers. But the main thing to remember is that no matter which one of these techniques you use, you have to cite your author at the end. That way you don't plagiarize.
Okay, so I loved this little recap. I thought it was very nice. Let's look at this in a text. Okay. Okay, so what's included in a paraphrase? You have key ideas. How do you know what key ideas are? Those are the who, what, where, when, why details. So what's your topic? And then what about your topic? Are you talking about baseball? Well, what about baseball? Are you talking about the rules? Are you talking about the uniforms? So what's the key idea? And then what specifically about that? You're going to use your own words. And if you are writing a paraphrase and you were like writing an essay and you needed to paraphrase something, that's when you would use parentheses. So how do we do it? We figure out the key ideas. We're going to list the details, the who, when, what, where, why, and we'll use synonyms to simplify the wording and put it in our own words. And then I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So here's our passage. If you look closely at the rainforest, you will notice 3 main layers. The first layer is the forest floor. Many times sunlight never reaches the forest floor due to the thick shrubbery found above it. Okay, so what's the main idea? What is this passage on? The rainforest. But what about the rainforest? Are we talking about deforestation? Are we talking about the lumber industry? Are we talking about animals that live in the rainforest? We're talking about the rainforest and that it has 3 main layers. And we're especially talking about the first layer. So let me jot these things down. So our main idea is that the rainforest has 3 layers and our key details focus on the first layer. So some other details. What about the first layer? It says many times sunlight never reaches the forest floor. So I'm going to shorten that to doesn't get much sun or not much sun. Is there anything else about why sunlight never reaches? We've got thick shrubbery, which whenever I hear the word shrubbery, makes me think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We want a shrubbery! If you have not seen Monty Python and Search for the Holy Grail, do yourself a favor and watch it. I'm pretty sure it's on Netflix. Neat! That will make a lot more sense after you watch it. Okay, so we take our main idea and we take our details. Now let's put them into a sentence format and we'll have our paraphrase. So the rainforest has 3 layers. We got that from right here. Layer 1 is the forest floor. It doesn't get much sun. The thick shrubberies block the light. You could even substitute this word like the thick bushes block the light or other plants block the light. But in general, we have the original and then our version, our paraphrase. So how did we do? I feel like we hit it. That the rainforest, what about it? It's got 3 layers and it's really more to the point. The paraphrase is more specific and to the point. It also uses phrases like doesn't get. This is a more common phrase that we would say. So it sounds more like a human person wrote it. Okay. You might be saying, Leggett, why didn't we cite it? And that's because the goal of my example was just to look at analysis. Wasn't attributing that to anyone specifically, but it's always a good idea to take the author or the person who is speaking and put that in parentheses at the end. When in doubt, cite it. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through 306. When we're done with that, you can work on the paragraph. Email me if you need anything. Okay. So let's open 306.